Guys, Davison here. Welcome to Davison After Dark, the live interactive talk show from my living room straight to yours, shot typically in front of the fan wall. I just wanted to shout out James Ballmer tonight. He's right there on the purple spot. Tonight we are going to start off the broadcast with talking about the hottest topic of the Oscars tonight, which is Ryan Seacrest hosting the red carpet for E! Despite the fact that there are recent allegations of sexual harassment by a former stylist. Now, I have complicated feelings about the issue, and I will explain why. There was a thorough investigation that Ryan agreed to go through with that lasted 2 months, wherein a whole bunch of witnesses were questioned, Ryan was questioned, the stylist was questioned, and ultimately the conclusion was that there was no concrete evidence that any harassment or inappropriate behavior had occurred. It was essentially a case of he said versus she said. Now, what complicates this is one of the rules of the MeToo movement is that you never question a victim's testimony. You never question whether or not the claims are authentic. You believe the women or the men who say, yes, I was assaulted. Yes, I was harassed. Yes, I was treated inappropriately. Or, of course, yes, I was raped. In the past, we used to let the courts decide whether or not claims were worth pursuing. But now everything is tried within the court of public opinion. So I have complicated feelings about this for multiple reasons. Like, I'll admit my bias that I've always found Ryan Seacrest to be agreeable. He's always come off as a consummate professional to me. Therefore, I have a hard time mentally feeling or accepting like he might be the type of person to commit wrongdoing against another person. That said, I realize that that is some sort of halo bias that I have. I'm presuming he would never be capable of such inappropriate behavior because he's appealing to me, or he seems like a decent human being. And that can frequently lead to false conclusions. But that said, in some instances, I absolutely unquestionably believe women who make accusations. I believe every single woman that accused Harvey Weinstein, and there were numerous ones. I believe every single woman that accused Bill Cosby of the disgusting sleeping pill-laden assaults that he committed. However, in this case, it is one woman who also allegedly demanded a large sum of money to stay silent, and there was an investigation, and there was an investigation, and the conclusion of the investigation was that there was no wrongdoing. So I guess in this case, I have doubt, and there were no formal charges laid. She did not go to the police. And also she claims that the abuse lasted years. And part of me struggles with when someone claims that abuse lasts years. Does that mean that it occurred in the way that they remember it? I mean, yes, it is very possible if you are a child or an adolescent or a woman in an abusive relationship to endure things because it's very complicated and that you are gaining some positive experiences, or there's a question of survival in abusive dynamics that you suppress and endure and make the choice to stay silent about and accept. And maybe in the case of being employed, allegedly Susie was feeling that she was vulnerable because she was a single mother and she had a small child to take care of, and the hours were very specific. She was only working part-time. So that led her to maybe endure behavior that she found personally unacceptable, but she was willing to make that sort of sacrifice or that compromise. I don't want to call it a sacrifice. I want to call it a negative compromise. But I guess I just sort of feel like why are the claims so vague? Why didn't she say anything? You would think that Ryan would clue in. Was there some sort of relationship that transpired between the two of them that went sour? When is harassment versus flirting? I understand too, as a performer, the kind of dynamics that you maintain with your team. They're not sexually inappropriate, but sometimes jokes are made. you're always getting undressed in front of your stylist. So this kind of opens and people sometimes act kind of awkward in these situations. So this kind of opens the opportunity for things that are kind of in the gray zone, or things that are meant innocuously to be taken the wrong way. But then I guess, in my opinion, it's open to team members to voice those concerns. But I know we don't live in an ideal world, and circumstances do not always unfold in ideal ways. So that said, do I think that Ryan should have hosted the red carpet tonight due to it being a very sensitive year in terms of the MeToo movement? Maybe it isn't the best choice for E to do that. And maybe it is an insensitive choice because there were still allegations made against him. But that said, I guess I see the opposite side, wherein if he committed no wrongdoing, if he was cleared of all allegations and charges through a thorough investigation, why should he not do his job? And maybe he's standing up for there being some sort of standard of investigation by which we should hold assault or harassment claims. I'm sure there are many men that are cheering his decision to continue because they feel as if too many men have been unjustly and excessively persecuted for crimes that are not on the same level of severity as, say, rape. So yeah, I don't want to have an unpopular opinion. I am conflicted about my opinion, but this is where I stand. I don't know what to believe. I think that it's maybe a little insensitive that he's hosting the red carpet tonight, but I fully understand his choice. And it's complicated. It's always complicated when there's interactions between human beings and two people interpret the same situation totally differently. And it's complicated when things are in the gray zone of appropriate versus inappropriate behavior, because everybody has different standards of what constitutes appropriate behavior versus what constitutes inappropriate behavior. So I'm just going to read your comments. Hello to Refrain. Hello to Big Bub. Hello to Mr. So Bitchy. And so far, Big Bub has to offer, everyone is capable of that type of behavior. You mean inappropriate behavior? Absolutely. Big Bub says, Ryan Seacrest himself has no reason to put his career on hold. It shouldn't be only men cheering this decision to continue on. It should be men and women. Well, that's sort of why I went live tonight, because I have complicated feelings about the matter. I know that he willingly submitted himself to a thorough investigation, and he has no previous record of committing any wrongdoing against any other individual. And there's a question of a large amount of money that was allegedly demanded to stop this situation from being leaked to the press. So all of these things sort of lead me to believe that, there's two sides to both stories, and one half had something to gain financially out of making these sorts of claims. So if I was a judge, I would need to look at the evidence, but it almost seems like, I feel like that in this case, maybe the claims were exaggerated. Do I think that Ryan Seacrest never said anything that was of a sexual nature in a joking context? Well, he probably did, because again, if you're getting undressed in front of someone for years, if you're working closely with someone for years, if you're in awkward positions for years, naturally, you're probably going to say things. Will you rub your erection against the person, as Susie claimed he did? No, of course not. But I understand how people interact, right? And I don't doubt that he probably made jokes at certain points to lighten the mood. But I was not there. So, yes, and I also do believe that investigations should be launched in all of these cases, because the last thing anybody wants is to be falsely accused of a crime. And I know that happens. The more powerful you are, the higher up you are, the more people that want to extort you for money. There's a massive amount of cases where people will claim copyright infringement when it's like the claim is tenuous at best, or it's fabricated. There are tons of instances where your former associates will try to take you for more money, or claim unpaid wages when wages were paid, because they know once you have a lot of money and a lot of power, people want to take advantage of you. And that unfortunately also includes sexual assault and sexual harassment allegations that are false. People will always try to tear the powerful down. They will always try to slander them. Not the majority of people, but it's that minority, and the minority always show up the more powerful you are. So that's why I'm very conflicted about this. And I know it's an unpopular opinion because, like I said before, one of the core tenets of the MeToo movement is that you are to believe allegations without question. and just say, I honor you, I respect you, I know what it's like to be a victim, I know false reports are very rare. You are a victim of Ryan Seacrest's terrible behavior. There's a ton of manipulative men in Hollywood, and I'm sorry, and we should shun him. But I guess I can't get behind that because I do believe that some allegations are exaggerated or false. So, okay. So, Moleman says, howdy, hello, Moleman. Mr. Sobici says, has he been convicted? No. What happened to innocent until proven guilty? Exactly. That's what I mean. I think there's needs to be due process in a lot of these cases when there's not an abundant number of women coming forward. When there's an abundant number of women coming forward, like in the case of Weinstein and Bill Cosby, it's for the most part, it sort of is a strong indicator of guilt. But in the case of he said versus she said, there should absolutely be legal proceedings. That's why we have a justice system, because we can't always try things in the court of public opinion or try things based on hearsay. And in this case, it's hearsay. And there's a lot of tabloid journalism motivations on behalf of Variety involved in making this story come to light again and have it resurface just conveniently before the Oscars for more clicks, for more attention. Controversy is what they're selling. They're not selling neutral stories. People stop caring about what actresses or actors are wearing on the red carpet. They're more likely to have an emotional reaction to something as shocking as sexual abuse or harassment allegations. So Efrain says, see, I thought the Me Too movement was not so much as believe the accuser, but don't turn a blind eye. Well, I think it's both. Big Bub says, by the way, I'm not necessarily taking his side. The truth could lie somewhere in the middle, which is also very possible. But unfortunately and fortunately, until there's actual proof of some kind of wrongdoing, you can't condemn. Efrain says, if someone makes an accusation, then it needs to be investigated and taken seriously. I agree. Mr. Field says, payouts for people to shut up should not be allowed anymore. Absolutely. They should also convict someone if they're guilty, says Big Bub. And Big Bub says no one should ever believe anyone without question in any circumstance. And he continues, the problem I have with the big number, like in the Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein cases, is that there can be women who tack on because the story is already popular. I think that's more rare. Yes, I suppose that can happen, but I think that's more rare. Mr. Sobici said, everything is so extreme these days. If you don't believe them 100%, then they'll accuse you of protecting a criminal. Well, yeah, just like me even going live and discussing this tonight puts me at risk of people saying that I am victim blaming or victim doubting, that I am being anti-feminist, when in my opinion, that's not the case. I just want this to be properly tried in the justice system and not to turn everything into a social media witch hunt, because first they will come for the men and then the pendulum will swing back in the other direction. And then women are going to start to get accused of a variety of crimes. We're starting to become far too barbaric and unbalanced on social media. And I want to see us return to reason. I mean, it's great that people can make their stories public, and it's great that all of this mistreatment is coming to light. And it's great that we clean up any industry where there's a lot of abuse, but it needs to be carefully rolled out and carefully executed, and not just this free-for-all war of accusations against mainly one specific gender and one specific type of man who is in power. So Mr. Sobici says, I don't think women would make false allegations just because it's a popular case. Yeah, I agree with that, as I had said before, with regards to Weinstein and Bill Cosby. Mr. Field said, that happened to that prank on YouTube. Women lied about getting groped because they thought the original women complaining needed help. Oh, I don't know what case you're talking about, Mr. Field. Efrain says, most of the time people who commit these kinds of crimes have gotten away with it before. Well, almost always. People always repeat the same behavior. It's never an isolated case. Just like if you're mistreated by someone that you go on a date with, guaranteed they mistreated someone else in the same way. If you're mistreated by a boss, guaranteed they've mistreated other employees the same way. Trevor the Great says, I agree, but why now? Big Bub says, from the standard that has been set recently, I've been sexually assaulted by women, and I'm sure many, if not every man has been. We just typically don't make a big deal about it. Well, I think why men make a less big deal about being sexually interacted with in an inappropriate way is because physically speaking, or just biologically speaking, rape occurs in a different way for men than for women, and women are unfortunately more vulnerable, I think, to certain types of rape. I mean, you guys cannot be raped vaginally. You guys don't have two holes. I hate to put it that way. You guys are larger than we are. Men are larger than women. So women have the disadvantage of being weaker, of being the one that is typically penetrated in a sex situation. Women also, their sexual appetites, from what I can tell, on average, are a lot lower than men's. Women are socialized to be the weaker, submissive sex. So men are socialized to be more dominant and aggressive and are rewarded for such behaviors. Therefore, back to, I don't agree with all of rape culture, but unfortunately, these sort of discrepancies in the way that we've been socialized the last however many number of years, it makes women, unfortunately, more likely to be victims of sexual assault than men. And I can't explain to you what it feels like to be the partner that is penetrated. I'm sure gay men maybe can, but it's a much different, more vulnerable dynamic. And, women just do not sexually assault men, and it's provable at the same rate that men, unfortunately, sexually assault women. And even the biology of erections versus no erections, women, they have to do different things in order to sexually assault a man. So I also don't think that men are sexually harassed to the same degree as women. I don't believe that either. It's like, how often do women incessantly go up to a man in the bar and like constantly compliment him, buy him drinks, try to take him home, grab his ass? I mean, yes, women grab men's butts and pinch butts in pubs. I've seen that happen a lot, but I mean, it's not the same kind of predator-prey dynamic that we've always maintained or that has always existed due to, like I said, biology and socialization. Like I said, that's not to say though that men can't be victim to certain types of they can't be victim to certain types of assault or mistreatment, but unfortunately, it occurs more frequently towards women than towards men. So Al said, not really following along what happened with Mr. Seacrest, other than he was accused of misbehavior. I'll explain again in a second, Al. Mr. Sobici says, men don't make a big deal about it because other men will shame them. It's happened before. Well, yeah, I guess so. I don't know what to say to that effect. Again, I can only speak as a woman about the female experience. I can't speak as a man about the male experience. So Al says, if this happened in 2013, what took her so long to come forward? What was a payoff accepted back then? We don't know. Apparently he never paid her off, but she felt emboldened by the MeToo movement to come forward now. So Big Bub says, well, that's one reason why I mentioned a long time ago, the traditional dating habits and routines need to change. I'm sure they will over time. It's inevitable. And Al says, with the glass ceiling, women have not really been in a position of power. Well, I just think women have never been in a consistent position of power. Some women always ascend to power. But again, because of biology and because of socialization, religion, and even child rearing, it just changes what women are capable of, unfortunately. So I will read one more time for the benefit of Al what the story is. So I'll read an article from Fox News and you can follow along. So I am going to, again, take your comments after I read the article. And then if I choose to continue the broadcast, I'm going to end this broadcast and start another one that's more informal and fun, because obviously this is a very serious matter, and I don't want to include like lighthearted fun times in this broadcast if we're talking about something that's pretty serious and, you know, involves people who have been victimized. And that includes Ryan Seacrest. I mean, Ryan Seacrest might be a victim as well of extortion and false allegations. We don't know. So as stars begin to make their way to the Dolby Theater's Red Carpet Sunday for the 90th Annual Academy Awards, many celebrities, fans, and viewers are wondering whether the sexual harassment accusations surrounding beleaguered E! host Ryan Seacrest could trigger tension on the red carpet. Seacrest, 43, a longtime host for E! an entertainment channel, has in recent months been facing accusations of sexual misconduct from his former stylist, all of which he's denied. Susie Hardy told Variety she landed her dream job as Seacrest's personal assistant at E! News in 2007, only to be fired in 2013 after making graphic complaints of harassment to E!'s Human Resources Department. Hardy accused the ABC star of grinding his manhood against her while he was only wearing underwear, groping her female parts and slapping her so hard on the bottom that she suffered for hours from a large visible welt. Despite the allegations, E! has stood by Seacrest, stating on February the 1st that its investigation found that there was insufficient evidence to support the claims made against him. Critics have slammed the network for letting the Live with Kelly and Ryan co-host continue his hosting duties Sunday in Hollywood as the MeToo movement picks up steam. The founder of the female empowerment and anti-sexual harassment campaign, Tanana Burke, told Variety she thought E! really shouldn't send Seacrest to Sunday night's big event, adding that it will let us know where the network stands in terms of how respectful E! News is on this issue about women. Some of the industry's top stars have been advised by their publicists to avoid speaking with Seacrest on the red carpet. Usually Ryan is the one you want, one publicist said, but there are so many outlets on the carpet, why risk it? There's plenty of other places for clients to get exposure. Another publicist said she'd be shocked to see who stops to talk to Ryan. He's in trouble. Jennifer Lawrence even told Howard Stern this week that she was unsure of talking to Seacrest amid the allegations, saying, "There's a lot to think about with E!" and acknowledged that this stuff gets pretty tricky. The executive producer of NBC's Access told Page Six that hosts Scott Evans and Kit Hoover have been instructed to ask each celeb that comes their way to ask them their thoughts about the Me Too movement and also whether or not they will talk to Ryan Seacrest. Despite E! execs saying they completely trust our investigation and that their signature red carpet interviewer would appear Sunday night, it was reported by Deadline that the channel was debating whether to implement a 30-second delay, which they did. In the event tension arises between Seacrest and celebrities. The plan being considered is mainly to ensure plenty of time to cut to either Juliana Rancic or to pull the plug altogether if an on-camera encounter with Ryan goes into tricky territory. For the most part, E! said that its show would be business as usual. So there we go. So what are your thoughts on that? So Mr. Field says, it's interesting how our religions are designed to stop this situation from happening. This probably was a problem for our ancestors. They had to deal with it once population densities became exponential. Well, I don't like the way that religions have chosen to deal with the situation. My personal opinion is that making women wear oppressive garb and forcing them to get married and be monogamous is not the best way to deal with this. We should be instructing people to respect boundaries. It's sad that it would take the fear of an all-powerful God and punishment in the afterlife for people to stop their mistreatment of others. And I don't think it takes that. It just takes people being open and being taught boundaries and consent from a very young age. So Big Bub says, I've known women to lie about something to help back up their friends, men too, but we're supposed to believe women for some reason. You know, this is another thing that I was thinking about last week. I hate to say it, and this is not because I hate men. I do not hate men. I love you all. Men lie more than women. They've done studies, and men presume lying or deception because men are more likely to lie. We all lie. to varying degrees, right? There's white lies, there's social lies, there's lies of omission, but men presume that women behave the way that they do, and men lie to cover their ass, and men lie to benefit their friends, and men lie to gain an advantage in business. Women are less likely to behave in the same way. I hate to break it to you. So that's why I think there's a lot of mistrust in this situation. But again, of course, there's crazy women or there's manipulative women that, yes, want to, say that they're pregnant by one guy. Meanwhile, they're pregnant with another guy and they're soaking the other guy for money. You know what I'm saying? That, of course, that has happened. But in the case of, but that said, back to the sexual abuse and harassment, I really don't know a single woman who hasn't been mistreated sexually. I don't know one. All of my friends, I can credibly say, at one point or another, have been sexually harassed or sexually assaulted or experienced sexual pressure or misconduct from men at parties, from men in public, from employers, from colleagues. I've faced all of it. All of it. The only thing I've never faced is being, raped by a complete stranger, some sort of violent, aggressive, psychopathic, or date rape. But I've been grabbed, I've been groped, I've been sent inappropriate emails by one person that was ultimately taken down by the MeToo movement who works in entertainment. I've known people I've worked with who didn't assault me, but apparently assaulted other people. There was a photographer in Montreal that I worked with multiple times. He was always appropriate with me, other than being slightly flirty. But with other women, he did apparently some terrible things, a lot, maybe more vulnerable women. And he knew with me, I'm a strong woman who speaks her mind. And so perhaps that's why he didn't try, because he knew he wouldn't get anywhere with me. And so that's why I believe that a movement to expose the truth needs to exist. I believe that this sensitizes men to know just how bad it is as a woman to be the weaker sex and the more pursued sex, and the penetrated sex for the most part, although I know certain gay men are penetrated. But that said, again, I believe in the justice system. I don't believe all allegations are the way that they are claimed to be. And especially if a woman asks for money, that makes her allegations, particularly in my opinion, suspect. So Davison, Trevor the Great says, Davison, please read the Hegelian dialectic, divide and conquer, men against women, or against women, or against women. Mr. So Bitchy said fries before guys. So Mr. Field says, women ask men to lie to them and get mad when you're honest. You mean like, do I look fat in this? Do I look old? Do I look tired? No, honey, you look great. And if you're like, yeah, maybe you look a bit tired. Nah! It's like you can't win. Caught between a rock. And seems like a very bad moment to finish that sentence. Big Bub says there's no such thing as a lie of omission, really. That's a metaphorical thing that people use. Well, it is sort of a lie if you refuse to answer what the truth is. It's deception, right? It's omission. I mean, I guess, yeah. Where were you last night? If you never tell them where you were last night, you're kind of technically covering up. You're basically stopping yourself, or stopping yourself from having to lie, or preventing the truth from coming to light, right? Because if you were speaking the truth, you would be able to answer the question instead of omitting the truth. Hi, Gizmo Gremlin. So Mr. Sobici says, just always tell your partner they look great because you always think they do. Aw, that's very sweet, Mr. Bitchy. Big Bub says, yes, of course, men lie and so do women. But the one thing is that when men lie, they know they're lying. They know they're deceiving you. But women actually convince themselves that they haven't lied, or that their lies justified. That's not true. I think everyone does mental gymnastics. No one wants to believe that they're a bad person, but like, no, women just, for some reason, women are more prone to deal with people emotionally as opposed to dealing with people as this sort of strategy of advantages versus disadvantages. I don't know what it's like to be a man. I mean, I feel like my psychology sort of rides the middle. I feel like there's something about me that's kind of gender ambiguous, non-binary, cognitively. But I feel like, of course, on that spectrum that I fall towards more like the female side of that divide. And I've been socialized as a woman, and I present as a woman, and I feel as if I am a woman as opposed to a male. So Trevor the Great says, Davison, Hegelian, the Hegelian dialectic written by George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel about divide and conquer the nations and culture. Okay, I'll write this down. I have to, I'm just have top chat, guys. Sorry. I hate this. Sorry. I forget to switch to live chat. So sometimes it glosses over your messages. I'll write down the title of the book. I need to do more reading. I saw the subtle art of not giving a FUCK at the mall this weekend. But I'm like, come on, I kind of know what the subtle art of not giving an F is, right? The advice is just going to be like, stop caring so much about what other people say. You're probably exaggerating what other people are saying about you in your mind. Their opinions don't matter. Live in the present. Don't live in fantasy. I mean, I haven't read the book, but I'm like, I'm not going to read this. But yeah, I could use some mind candy. So, Hegelian dialectic. Interesting. Oh, hello, Balmer. You're here. I want to show you your spot on the wall. Just a minute. So we are shifting gears a little bit. See the purple spot right here, James? Oh, I can't zoom. I was about to try to use my fingers to zoom in on the spot. I can't because this is my monitor and it's huge. Oh, actually, I can take a picture of it, James. I feel like, guys, do we have anything else to say about the Me Too movement? Are you afraid yourselves as men of being falsely accused of a crime you didn't commit? Have you ever been falsely accused by a woman of a crime that you didn't commit? Okay, let me just take a photo of this, James. And I can show you. I gotta turn on the contrast. So do you see, James? That's the beginning. Is it backwards? Because it looks backwards to me, but maybe it'll look the right way to you guys. And there's going to be a design beside it. Okay. Oh, what is the book about, James? You're welcome, James. Thank you for paying for the spot on the wall. I'm sorry that I didn't finish it sooner. I've been very slowly adding to the wall. I need to get caught up with the painting aspect because I've been, as you guys know, I maintain broadcasts on this channel. I also produce content for my main channel. I also produce content for my Patreon and content for Instagram. So it's a lot for me to juggle. So that's why sometimes also I have to want to get dirty to paint. Like my hands get dirty and it's very time consuming. It might look like it's nothing, but each spot takes hours to put it on the wall correctly. And there's also a drying process. So thank you for your patience, James. Now I'm caught up with all the names that should be on the wall. It's just adding additional designs and refrain's there. Refrain's always there. So the subtle art of not giving an F is more about prioritizing where you put your focus and what you choose to put your effort into. Okay. So Sean says, I've had someone say I was harassing them, which I was, but that was to get the $5,000 she owed me. She tried to say I was harassing in a way that didn't involve her owing cash. We went to court and everything. The judge heard what I had to say and what she had to say and threw it out of court. Did you ultimately get your money? So Mr. Sobici says, as a gay man, I don't feel conflicted in terms of violence. Mr. Feel, it's not about that at all. So Mr. Feel says, I think being a man, we deal with conflict in terms of violence, whereas women evolved to use manipulation, perhaps. Or, I don't know, men, though, again, back to they lie, and then there's this threat of violence. They lie, they omit, they exaggerate, versus women emotionally try to gain an advantage through gossiping or, I don't know. I don't think women selectively freak out. I think usually when women freak out, there's a reason for it. Most women, but not all. Again, everyone, both genders can fall anywhere on the spectrum of deception versus truth and manipulation versus being upfront. I try as a human being to be direct and upfront about things. I have been, of course I've been misinterpreted because people don't like people who are direct. And people don't like people who are powerful. So then they'll lie, gossip, slander, et cetera, et cetera. I've misinterpreted things too, perhaps sometimes. It's complicated being human, isn't it? Of course, after I sued her. So Mr. Sobici says, don't harass people at all. Yeah, I don't think you should harass people. I think maybe you should have escalated the claim to the courts as soon as possible. I understand, though, like sometimes you have to be a squeaky wheel in business and be like, what's happening? What's happening? Let me send you another email. Let me call you. And I, we've all lost our temper against untowards business associates. Like I've been owed money multiple times and had to freak out to get my money. And freak out just, angrily stating that they owed me something and telling them what I thought about their conduct. No one likes getting to that point, though. But I don't think I would never like every day, every half hour call till I got what I wanted. I'm persistent, but I think it goes into harassment if it's excessive and you're not being patient enough. You know what I'm saying? I had to because it's my business, and by Nebraska law, we have to tell them so many times they owe us before we can sue. Ah, I see. Mr. Sobici said, there's a big difference between not being a doormat and harassing someone. It's about keeping common sense, exactly. So Efrain says, I read a story from a woman's perspective, and she was acutely aware of things like guys' stances as aggressive. Is that something that you notice too? You mean, okay, well, of course I'm always sizing people up. I'm sizing people up when I meet them. I'm sizing someone walking towards me on the sidewalk. Is this person's gait normal? The gait is the manner in which they walk. If someone, because I live in a neighborhood that's fairly mixed. So there are some people that are a little bit mentally not quite normal in my neighborhood. And there was a guy for a while who's like this druggie, who's so weird. Like he like, I was wearing yoga pants. He's like, those are really crazy pants. I was like, yeah. He's like, do you have any dope? I was like, no. And he's like, those are the type of pants that you wear if you have dope. I'm like, no, I don't have any dope. And I don't know why I told that story. But because I live in a mixed neighborhood of like mixed socioeconomic status, mixed sanity, mixed encounters of odd kinds, I'm more vigilant. But yeah, I mean, if somebody's walking too quickly, if it looks like someone's following me, if someone looks at me too much, if I'm at a bar and a man keeps paying attention to me, or, I mean, I guess at a bar, you don't worry about it unless they keep talking to you. But I mean, if they persist at talking to you and you're not interested, you just have to cut them off and be blunt or escape with your friend. If a man is aggressive in a work text with me, I'm aggressive back, generally speaking, or at minimum, I voice my concerns while trying to be as diplomatic as humanly possible. Yeah, I mean, I'm not living in constant fear of men, but I mean, there are circumstances in which I'm more likely to feel vulnerable, meaning, alone late at night, taking a cab home, worrying that they're not going to drop me off properly or take off before I've gotten inside safely. Yeah, in the park alone, stuff like that. But in general, like whether, being suspect of the motives of any man I talk to, not necessarily. It just depends on the context. So say you said, hey, Davison, it's been a long time. Sorry. Okay, well, regarding talking about other topics, I think what I'm going to have to do, because this has been more about Seacrest. I don't know if I should continue this broadcast as is or resume with one that's more casual. So hold on. So but I'm going to go back to the questions that pertain to the discussion that we're having about feeling as if you could be victimized as a woman or feelings of vulnerability as a woman. Because that's sort of where this Ryan Seacrest discussion took us. So Mr. Field says, do certain skin colors make you feel more or less safe? No. It's entirely to do with the way the person's behaving and how they present themselves, how they move, how they walk, how they act. Race does not factor in. Perhaps socioeconomic status does, though, right? Because a crack junkie, I'm sorry, I hate to say it, is more likely to cause you problems than someone who's perhaps, has a family with 4 kids. And I maybe shouldn't say junkie because I suppose that's pejorative, because I feel sorry for anybody who, has substance abuse problems. So would you have to lie on stream regardless of your opinion? Well, if I was racist, it would serve me well to lie on stream, but I can tell you right now, I'm not lying. Trevor the Great says, good broadcast. Well, thank you, Trevor. Okay, guys, I think I'm going to end this broadcast here. I don't know if the Oscars have started. I don't think they start till 9 p.m. My neck is bothering me for some reason. I have walked a lot this weekend. Maybe that's why. But yes, I'm going to probably come back in a little bit and we'll have some more fun, because I don't feel like it's appropriate to segue from a very serious topic to a fun topic. Yeah, and as Mr. Field says, the Oscars are a fake award show anyways. Well, I mean, it's just an award show that serves to bolster the status of Hollywood. And I feel like Hollywood is losing power a little bit because people aren't visiting the movie theater quite as much. Like the most recent film that everyone's going to see is Black Panther. I haven't seen it yet. I would love to see it. But other than that, I don't know about you. Like there was a point, say 10, 15 years ago where I'd go to the movies at least twice a month. I go to the movies maybe once or twice a year now, if even. And yeah, the Oscars are just like showing off. It's a big photo opportunity. It's a big opportunity to show an exclusive party that people don't have access to. So it's aspirational. It provokes envy. It provokes gossip. Again, Ryan Seacrest being a part of that gossip industry and social manipulation. So that said, films are a cultural product, and there should be film awards because it takes a lot of energy and effort to make world-class entertainment. Mind you, it is sometimes, what's the word I'm looking for? Blunted a little bit, the quality of films, because they're trying to appeal to the mass market, but still, like, visually, usually films are extremely accomplished. Costuming is usually extremely accomplished, and is acting if the script is sometimes, compromised due to wanting to appeal to a mass market. So, but that said, yes, we place far too much cultural importance on an award show designed to bolster the status of Hollywood and the status of Hollywood in mainstream media. So there you go. I wonder how Ryan's feeling. I mean, I feel like Ryan Seacrest, if I was him, I would be under an immense amount of stress. I would care what everyone was saying about me, especially if I was not guilty. It would tear me up inside. I would be more prone to probably cry about it. But I mean, he's a long-term industry veteran, and he has always sort of presented himself as very emotionally neutral. So I think he's just continuing with that sort of approach. The show must go on. That's an old adage in Hollywood. So he's probably following that as well. And only he knows the truth. He and the stylist are the ones who know the truth. That's it. We will never know unless there is a police and legal investigation with very clear evidence. So I feel like we should, and there has been an investigation and he was cleared. So it's all signs point to us needing to believe that and needing to acknowledge that not all allegations of sexual misconduct are true, unfortunately. So if Fran says he probably has a lot of lawyers counseling him, absolutely. And plus, I mean, he's also has a huge paycheck that he could be compromising if he conveys any form of guilt, and maybe not hosting the red carpet people would interpret that as an admission of guilt, right? Or responsibility. Kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, as I said before. I don't think the police can investigate now statute of limitations. I think they can, because if certain Cosby crimes were investigated, I think his can be. So Big Buff says, like I said earlier, the allegations could be true, but since we can't prove it, there's nothing we can do about it. Well, there is something we can do about it. Again, it's back to how do we treat people who have had allegations made against them? We have to kind of decide that personally, and we have to decide that socially. The MeToo movement wants us to believe all allegations. Me personally, I feel like I take it on a case-by-case basis, unfortunately. Okay, guys, so thank you so much for taking part in this live broadcast. I will be back later. Watch the Oscars, don't watch the Oscars. At least we talked about the MeToo movement and Ryan Seacrest. Okay, bye, guys.